Joining me now is former Pennsylvania Democratic Congressman Jason Altmire, now CEO of Career Education Colleges and Universities. Congressman, thank you for your time this morning.
Happy to be here.
You know, when we talk about billions of dollars being yanked from Harvard, I don't even think we have a full grasp, at least most of us don't anyway, on what that really means and looks like and what the full impact on how the school operates even looks like.
I think it's worth noting this is not the first time a presidential administration has weaponized the tools of the Department of Education against schools that they don't like. The Biden administration did it with private career colleges. And if you look at the court rulings, they ruled that the Department of Education greatly exceeded its authority and punitive, overzealous approach to its regulatory policies. I think that the Trump administration is taking some plays out of the same playbook, and I think that the Ivy League institutions are going to have the same impact with regard to the regulatory structure, the lack of their tax status being called into question, and the courts are going to have to ultimately resolve it in the same way they did with the Biden administration's attack on career colleges.
Harvard also, by the way, for everybody who doesn't know, is the state of Massachusetts' fourth largest employer. So talk about the trickle-down effect to the places that we may not even be thinking about or talking about right now. I mean, is this going to impact athletic events for students and the mess hall and janitorial services, et cetera, et cetera?
If the nonprofit tax status is withdrawn, it's going to affect the donors because their tax donations will no longer be tax deductible. And the impact of $2 billion of revenue being lost to the university, it would impact everything. Harvard is in a different place than many other institutions because of the size of their endowment. But there is no question when you start looking at research grants and the impact that reductions all across America and American leadership and scientific, academic, and medical research, that would all be impacted by this. And I think when the courts review the impact of many of these decisions, which go beyond just the Department of Education, you're talking about the Department of Energy and other cabinet agencies, it's going to have a huge effect, not just on those universities, but on America itself.
Harvard is in a league of its own, that's for sure. You bring up its endowment. It has an endowment of more than $53 billion. That is more than the GDP of nearly 100 different countries, though much of it is locked up for specific purposes. But, Congressman, what would you tell Americans who say Harvard gets enough private funding, it doesn't need taxpayers? Your response?
They did pass in recent years a very small tax on the endowments of the largest universities in the country. There is a school of thought among the political class that if you have that size endowment, it should be taxable to a greater extent, and that does put Harvard and some of these Ivy League schools in a different class with regard to government oversight and accountability, because we are talking about taxpayer funds and taxpayer contracts with the government. So when you have that type of obligation where you've engaged in a contract paid for by the taxpayer, then the lending entity, the government in this case, does have the ability to set requirements and stipulations on the terms of those contracts and grants. And I think that's what the court discussion is going to be about.
Well, we saw Columbia University cave to the demands of the Trump administration to restore $400 million in federal funds that they pulled from them. We'll see how long Harvard is able to dig its heels in. Former Congressman Jason Altmire, thank you so much, sir, on your Friday morning.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, you got it.